Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
I'll just chop that first part out. Can you give us a little introduction of yourself?
For sure. My name is Scott Rowley. I live in Whitefish, Montana, where I lead a digital-based coaching company called Peak Prosper, and we help adventurous men find meaningful work that aligns with their purpose. I'm sure today that we'll dive deeper into what that means and some of the methodologies and principles that we teach. But that's a summary of who I am professionally. Personally, I love adventure travel, ski mountaineering, exploring the deep backcountry of the surrounding mountains where I live here in Montana by snowmobile and skis. And I've been on some pretty epic adventures out here in the mountains that I'm also stoked to talk about today. So
that's awesome. So for those who didn't realize, right when I was turning on record, Scott was telling me that he was, I thought he said he was still going to be in Thailand. That's where I'm like, it's like 4 a.m. What are you doing here, buddy? But apparently he just got back. So how do you balance traveling like that and your coaching business at the same time?
Sure. Brilliant question. So about a year ago, I brought a business partner into Peak Prosper. He's absolutely an amazing gentleman. His name is Mike Morelli, and he lives kind of a digital nomadic lifestyle out of Costa Rica right now, but really travels all over the world. So as a result of having a business partner, we can kind of balance the load of the business and keep everything going regardless of us both being present there. So that gives us the ability and flexibility to kind of work when we want, where we want, and keep the business going while taking fairly large chunks of time off during the year.
So are you predominantly like an online course, or is it actual one-on-one like calls like this?
Yeah, great question. So our business model is an online course with group coaching and an online community is really the way that our business model works. Okay. And before that, we did one-on-one coaching, both my partner and I, and that kind of became the platform to develop our skills, our strengths, our principles, and the method that became the foundation of what our online course has become at Peak Prosper that now has close to 50 members in it.
That's good. That's very good. So, tell us the genesis story, how you met your business partner.
Sure. So, like many online coaches and consultants, the way that I started my business was through developing digital relationships. And Mike Morelli and I actually met through Facebook, just kind of a chance happening. He was a suggested friend, and I reached out to him to just build an authentic relationship, a friendship with him. That relationship kind of grew over a couple of months. He actually ended up becoming one of my one-on-one coaching clients. So I helped him both with his personal life and with his business. And while we were working together, we worked together for 2 months. And when I was doing one-on-one coaching, I'd require a client to come on board for a 2-month time period. I really found that it took a period of time for us to ramp up and for them to start changing their actions and build clarity around their vision and align those actions with the vision that they wanted to turn into a reality. So Mike and I worked together one-on-one for 2 months. And during that time frame, he grew his business from just under $2,000 a month to hitting his first $8,000 a month in revenue. His mind was just a lot more focused and clear around what he was building and what he was working towards and why. And about 75% of the way through our work together, Mike started to ask about the potential of partnering up, becoming a part of Peak Prosper and working together to really build out a platform that would become and is becoming the foundation for reaching thousands of people all over the world, providing them with both free and paid resources so that we can help people create the life and the career of their dreams. So, yeah.
I'm just curious. This is more just like inner child asking, if anything.
Sure, man.
Like for you, just to travel the world freely, that's kind of like what my inner kid wants to do. Like I've always had that like Indiana Jones. Like I don't necessarily want to go be tripping boulders and running down Aztec ruins, but like that adventure, like kind of like you were just in Thailand kind of thing. It's just, oh, I don't feel like being in America for the next week kind of thing.
Sure. What was your question? What was your question?
Sorry, that was the backstory. I forgot to ask the question. So essentially, is essentially like an online course the best way of approaching it, or a type of like blogging or YouTubing kind of thing also integral with your system?
Sure. So is your question,
how did you achieve what you're doing now?
How did I achieve what I'm doing now? From a travel perspective, I can't say that there is a one best professional path for somebody to take so that they can create the lifestyle that they desire to lead. I can't. Okay. I think that most importantly, what one needs to do is kind of peel back the layers and really understand who they are at the core. What are their skills and their strengths and their passions and the things that really bring them to life? And the money and the means and the flexibility is something that becomes a reality if that's built into the professional vision that somebody creates and casts out into the world. So what I mean by that, for example, I mean, if you were to say, I want to create a blog that supports my life from X perspective, I want it to generate X amount of money. That blog might actually become something that imprisonates you, that you have to work on, you have to fuel, and it doesn't support your travel lifestyle, that you failed to clarify what that might look like exactly. So I think to really hammer in on your question here now, what we're all seeking as humans, I believe, at least from a professional perspective, is something that provides us with financial stability and lifestyle flexibility. That could come from working for a corporation. That could come from starting your own business that provides a service. That could come from starting your own business that provides an online course or is a YouTube channel or a podcast with sponsorships. But the key thing there is ensuring that you have some flexibility component built into that. You're not constrained to having to go clock in 9 to 5, 5 days a week to barely pay your bills, but that you can kind of work based on your performance rhythms. We're finding that people perform better at different times of the day. Some people wake up at 4 a.m. and crush it out before the rest of the world wakes up. Some people do their best work starting at 4 p.m., working until 12 a.m. So the flexibility is really the key that one should go after. And that was something that I really embraced even when I was working in the corporate world, really seeking out companies that I could work for that provided me with both enough paid vacation and an open-mindedness to provide me with unpaid leave so that I could take an absence from work and still go travel the world and go on epic adventures and do the things that I love. So I hope that answers your question.
It did. No, I should have thought of a better question. So what was your corporate gig, or are you still working for someone?
Sure. So I only have one job or career, profession, whatever you might want to call it. And that's leading Peak Prosper, where I wear a bunch of hats. I'm predominantly a mindset coach. So I help my clients clarify their vision for the future and understand what roadblocks or mental programming and conditioning is holding them back currently from getting to where they want to be, and breaking those barriers down so that they can start taking new actions in alignment with the vision that they desire to be living. In addition to that, I run our whole digital technology system, anywhere from YouTube ads and Facebook ads and digital research and optimization to the technology stack that runs our online course and our website and everything in between. So I absolutely love what I do. It keeps me on my toes, and it leverages my natural skills and strengths and the things that I love to do. And I've done a bunch of tests. I've spent a lot of time introspectively looking at who I am and what makes me tick. And I've found that system optimization and building systems is really something that I enjoy. I have this natural knack for seeing all of the little steps, all of the little pieces that have to be built into an engine for it to actually work for a business. And then I just love working with people and helping them realize big, crazy dreams and goals that really seem impossible. And I'd love to share some of those with you, which we can dive into in a couple of minutes here.
Perfect. No, I would love to hear that. That was going to be kind of like a lead-in question next. So I'm assuming from what you just said earlier is you predominantly do all the back end work. You don't have a full team behind you yet?
No. So I manage all of the back end. We do have a digital marketing partner that helps us with some of our research. My business partner kind of manages the distribution and promotion of our podcast and our emails and our content marketing strategy. And we'll be hiring one other person on our team this year, maybe a second, and that will be somebody to manage our paid advertising strategy. Once that scales up, we'll be bringing on 1 or 2 salespeople. And with that small team of 3 to 4 people, the way that our business model is built, we'll be able to scale to 6 figures per month with that small team. We don't have to grow to this gargantuous team like one used to because of the way that services can be delivered at scale now. So
yeah, especially if a good CRM, it's just one of those, like you said, you need maybe 2 humans to pitch the sales and 1 to close it, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious for you, what is your CRM you use for your platform?
Sure. So we use ActiveCampaign, and ActiveCampaign is fully integrated with Kajabi. Kajabi is our CMS, our content management system that manages our website and our online course. So when somebody comes into our funnel, that lead is tagged based on the actions that person took or the asset that they consumed, whether that was one of our free online courses, a free workshop, a free digital download, or whatever it might have been. And then we're tracking all of that user behavior and the experience that someone has from their first digital touch point to actually becoming a member of the Peak Prosper Transformation Program through ActiveCampaign. And it's an incredible platform that gives us the ability to nurture leads, follow up with leads, text people, do outbound sales calling, and a variety of other functions as well. So
that's interesting. I've been trying to figure out a good CRM and CMS, but it's just one of those, like, I tried Kartra. If you're familiar with that.
I'm not, no.
Essentially Kartra is in direct competition with Kajabi, but like I build out the whole back end, but the most important part was the home landing page. It wouldn't sync. No matter how many times I emailed them, they're like, oh, well, it's your fault. I'm like, how am I going to send someone to like joshboltoncoaching.com? They have to do joshboltoncoaching / kind of thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like a technical engineering problem, the way that they've developed their URL strings. It sounds like, at least.
Oh, it really was. And That's where at a certain point, it took a young guy that just got hired to go through all my notes. And he even emailed me back. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like everyone gave you the runaround. He's like, we don't have a fix for this.
Oh man.
And I told him, like, dude, I just built out a great platform and a course. And you're saying I can't send them to the homepage?
Yeah, that's silly, man. I mean, technology is so powerful, but when we're limited by the basic essentials, it doesn't work for us, right?
Right. And that's what I'm like, dude, how am I? That's the weirdest conversation. I'm like, okay, so you can't just type in joshboltoncoaching.com. You have to add a / and then welcome. I'm like, that's way too many steps. They're not going to remember that.
No.
So it was just one of those. Yeah. I've been trying to find a different CRM, just because like the client that's willing to pay me the $600 a month for editing and all that and processing. He pretty much said, hey, do you just have like an online course? Even if it's like $500, I'll buy it and just give it to my team. He's like, a lot of us entrepreneurs, we'll just buy it, give our team and be like, figure it out. I was like, oh, well, I was trying to build it.
Yeah. And I mean, if I was suggesting any kind of a CMS to somebody just getting started, I'd probably recommend looking into Weebly or Squarespace for a content management system, just for a basic website. And in regards to CRM, there's some really great free CRM functions out there and solutions like Zoho would be a great one. And then I use Asana to manage my projects and my tasks on a daily and weekly basis as well. So
is Asana more of like a task, or is it integrated with everything else?
Asana is a task and project management system. Okay. So it's not customer interfacing unless you were like a digital marketing agency and you wanted your customers to have access to their project that you're managing for them so that you could use it as a communication channel. But yeah.
So interesting. So then, well, it actually kind of leads into it. How did you help some of your awesome clients get to where they're at with your courses and techniques?
Sure. Great question. Well, it all starts with getting clarity around where somebody's at and what's keeping them there, and kind of looking at some of their history, some of the historical markers that have brought them to where they are today, and some of the mental conditioning and programming that oftentimes keeps people stuck in old belief systems and old ideologies and old thoughts that, oh, I'm not good enough for something, or I have to have a job in order to maintain and sustain and pay my bills, or this goal, this dream that I have, I've seen other people do it, but how in the hell am I going to do it? It just seems completely impossible. So we go through a process of reprogramming and reconditioning the mind initially. And then we go in and help people really identify their skills and their strengths and their passions and build clarity around who they are at the core so that they can really focus on what we call the zone of genius, or your natural operating state, which is your NOS. It's kind of your natural state of being where you have a tendency to drop into a flow state and work seems to happen with effortless ease for you. Once we've gone through the initial mind reprogramming, we can call it, we then work to develop a crystal clear vision for the future. And for some people, this is project-based, meaning they have a really specific project or goal or something that's big, hairy, scary, and audacious that they want to turn into a reality. For some people, it's a complete life vision. It's redefining who they want to be, what they want to turn into a reality, and really building this vision with what we call a burning desire. Napoleon Hill talks about burning desire in his book, Think and Grow Rich, and how one must have a vision backed by a burning desire in order to turn it into a reality. At Peak Prosper, we call this the North Star. At a foundational level, it's really your life purpose. It's the why behind the what that you want to turn into a reality. I think Simon Sinek said, with a strong enough why, one can bear any what. So when we look at vision and some of these big, scary, crazy goals that guys have brought to Peak Prosper that they want to turn into a reality, I can think of no greater example than my now great friend and very long-term client, Logan Tyler. And he runs a small rock climbing, adventure guiding, and via ferrata guiding company in Ouray, Colorado called Basecamp Climbing. And I highly suggest checking it out. Basecamp Ouray, there in Colorado. He came to me, he said, Scott, we want to build a world-class via ferrata. And for those listening that might not know what via ferrata is, it stands for the Iron Way. And it's essentially an iron ladder with these metal rungs that get bolted into mountains and rocks that essentially create a pathway for somebody to climb up a mountain, up this bolted ladder way. And
it's actually pretty cool. It'll be tiring though.
It's super epic, man. There's a guy, his name is Jerry Arizona on YouTube, and he created an absolutely epic video of the Via Ferrata that we built. It would have been last spring and summer. It's just opening to the public this summer. I think they had their ribbon cutting about a week ago.
Nice.
But I highly suggest checking this video out. So Logan and his friend there in Ouray, Colorado, they said, we want to build this Via Ferrata. It's going to cost about $150,000. We don't have the money to build it. We have a location to build it. We don't have a plan. We don't have contractors. We don't have the supplies. We don't have the team. We don't have the engineering. We don't have the permits. We don't have a plan. We don't have anything. We just have an idea, Scott. And I said, okay, well, let's make it happen. So we developed a plan. I coached them through the process of putting together a proposal that could be pitched to potential investor. And over the course of several months and negotiating and really dialing in their plan and the geography and the geographic information map and all of the digital requirements that were necessary to build a project scope, a project budget, go through the negotiation and sales process. They got the investment that they needed. They got the property approved where they can actually build the Via Ferrata, and they built this thing. And when you watch the video, my description of it cannot do justice. This thing is awe-inspiring. It's magnificent. It truly is a world-class adventure experience for an adventure enthusiast. And I think that it's parallel to probably the top 3 Via Ferratas in the world. There's one area on this. It goes up an old gold mine in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. And there's a bridge near the top of the Via Ferrata that's about 200 feet wide, 200 feet long. So it spans a canyon that's about 200 feet. And in the middle of the bridge, you're roughly 500 feet off the ground. You can just look down and just see very, very, very far below your feet. It's pretty wild. So, we turned that into a reality. Logan took his climbing business, Basecamp Ouray, from, they did about $30,000 their first year in business when he became a client of mine. And they did just shy of $500,000 last year. And they're on pace to grow both revenue and profitability this year. So an absolutely amazing story. And his ability to conceptualize the concepts that we've taught at Peak Prosper, apply them to his life and his business has become unparalleled in my experience and absolutely inspiring. And it really is a testament to what people can do when they harness the power of their mind and build clarity around a vision that they want to turn into a reality and embrace the support from other people, whether that's their community, mentors, coaches, different methodologies, and really step into the fear that holds so many of us back. So that was a bit of a long-winded response to your question, but
No, there's a lot already to just dig into that. I'm just curious. So I want to go back into Via Ferrata. It literally is just like an iron ladder going up a mountainside, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. As I'm just imagining that, I'm like, that's where I said, well, man, that's gonna be tiring, because if you're going up like almost 500 feet from ground base up,
Yeah.
that'll be very tiring. Is there like some safety thing, or do you have to like move the clip every time you go up?
Great question. So the Via Ferrata in Ouray, Colorado, the Gold Mountain Via Ferrata that we're talking about here today, I think it's about 1,500 vertical feet from the bottom to the top. It is along an old gold mine shaft. So it's really cool in that there's multiple pitches, is what we call them in rock climbing, or sections. So you'll climb a couple hundred feet vertical, and then you'll be able to walk a little ways. There's some flat trails and stuff that you can kind of walk along before you go to the next section. Yes, you wear a climbing harness, like a traditional rock climbing or mountaineering harness around your waist. And then that harness has a safety device that's developed specifically for Via Ferrata. And that device has 2 connection points on it with a carabiner. It looks like a carabiner on either end of it. And you use that to clip into a cable that runs up the entire Via Ferrata. There's different cable points, though. So you'll go 10 feet or so, and then you'll have to disconnect your harness and then reconnect it to the cable, which is why there's 2 carabiners on that harness, so that you are always connected to a safety point. So you'll disconnect one, clip it back into the next section, disconnect the other one, clip it into that section, continue climbing up the Via Ferrata.
That's cool. Okay, I want to say I've done rock climbing with my uncle, as big of a guy as I am. But yeah, that was the one thing. He was joking with me. I realize now it's just rock climbing humor. He's like, "Oh man, you're pretty heavy. I don't know if I can, like, if you fall." And he like kind of like kicks the wall to get me to fall off. And I'm like freaking out and screaming. He's like, "Calm down. I've had to hold like 400-pound guys. You're fine."
Yeah. And the unique thing about Via Ferrata is you're essentially self-belayed. So if you fall, then the harness and your connection to the cable is what catches you and stops you from going further than about 10 or 15 feet would be the max fall.
It's intense, but it's not going to like ruin you.
No, it's not going to ruin you. You're not going to deck out and hit another rock and get hurt severely. So
yeah, that was one thing. When I was rock climbing more with him, we lost contact with COVID. He's also gotten way extra introverted, but yeah, that was the one thing. Cause like I said, I admit I'm a bigger guy than for my frame. So when I was climbing with him, I was like 280. So trying to like boulder over everything was the easiest approach I could do ever.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm not going to do this like 100-foot vertical with a bunch of pitches. I'm like, I'm just going to boulder over here. But that's interesting. So on top of the rock climbing, it sounds like do you do also like camping and hiking on your free times in your area?
Yeah. So I'm kind of a jack of all adventure, I guess.
Hey, I like it.
I don't hunt, I don't fish, but I mountain bike. We actually have mountain biking trails right out my window here. Yeah, so I mountain bike, I rock climb. I do a little bit of mountaineering. I really prefer to climb up a mountain and ski down it instead of just climb up it and then climb back down it. I live very close to Glacier National Park, and my friends and I will do a fair bit of what we call peak bagging, where we'll just go hike up various peaks in the national park. Yeah, so that's kind of a summary of my adventures that I go on. They've taken me to a variety of places all over the world. I've skied in Japan and Canada and all over the United States. I had this childhood dream that got re-inspired about 2.5 years ago, and I hiked to Everest Basecamp solo and self-supported, which was pretty wild.
Yeah, that's pretty risky too. All right.
There's some risk. I mean, there's risk in all things in life, right?
But like if you get above base camp, that's when like you have to have all the specialty equipment.
Yeah. So above base camp, you need mountaineering equipment and a team and everything that is required to, well, not everything that's required to climb Everest. I don't think you need oxygen really until like 24,000 feet, as long as you've properly acclimatized. So your body goes through what we call acclimatization, where your blood oxygen molecules have to adjust to the elevation. So at Everest Base Camp, you're experiencing roughly 50% the oxygen saturation that we have at sea level. And if you don't go through acclimatization, you can get very, very sick from HACE, which is high altitude cerebral edema, and HAPE, which is high altitude pulmonary edema. I don't remember exactly which one is the brain and which one is fluid in the lungs. But one version of it, either HACE or HAPE, you get fluid in your lungs as a result of increasing your elevation too fast. The other one is swelling in the brain. And really the only cure for altitude sickness is going back down where there's more oxygen. Your body is getting what it needs. So the trek to base camp, which is, I think it's just under 18,000 feet. It's fairly safe. There's lots of resources, food, water, places to stay, people to help, medical support along the way if you needed it. But yeah, there is some risk. There's risk of altitude sickness, which can really happen to anybody above about 8,000 feet, especially if they live at sea level. So if you were to go from Los Angeles to 10,000 feet in a couple of hours, you'd probably get a headache. You might get sick and start puking, but it wouldn't be life-threatening. If you were to go from LA to 20,000 feet, you're probably going to have some serious, serious problems. And if you went from LA to the summit of Everest in a very short period of time, you would likely die within 3 to 5 minutes because of your lack of acclimatization. So, yeah. And then the kind of the secondary risk of going to base camp would be the dirty water and potentially foodborne illness as well. So,
yeah, and I would say a life straw is not going to help because it's going to freeze over real quick.
Yeah, but if you go in like trekking season, the weather is very nice. It's spring-like, it's sunny, it gets warm during the day. So a life straw could work if you had access to mountain streams. I actually used a little thing called a SteriPen, which uses ultraviolet light to sterilize the water.
Well, you made it like halfway, or at least what I perceived as halfway when editing this. Your boy got Adobe Audition, like every pro podcaster should, but I was just too cheap to buy this. There was a special going on, so I was like, you know what, I'll get it. So I just want to say, hey, if you like this show, you believe in what I'm doing, can you rate and review on whatever your podcast host provider is? On my website, if you have wrote a review on Apple, I can actually post it on my website. But just, yeah, that's the most cheapest, no money out of the pocket for you to support me. I'm also going to start doing YouTube. I got a video editing software and this, so I will be dabbling around figuring out how to make that work. Other than that, let's get right back into the show. No other ads or interruptions. Let's go.
Acclimatized. So your body goes through what we call acclimatization, where your blood oxygen molecules have to adjust to the elevation. So at Everest Basecamp, you're experiencing roughly 50% the oxygen saturation that we have at sea level. And if you don't go through acclimatization, you can get very, very sick from HACE, which is high altitude cerebral edema, and HAPE, which is high altitude pulmonary edema. I don't remember exactly which one is the brain and which one is fluid in the lungs. But one version of it, either HACE or HAPE, you get fluid in your lungs as a result of increasing your elevation too fast. The other one is swelling in the brain. And really the only cure for altitude sickness is going back down where there's more oxygen. Your body is getting what it needs. So the trek to base camp, which is, I think it's just under 18,000 feet. It's fairly safe. There's lots of resources, food, water, places to stay, people to help, medical support along the way if you needed it. But yeah, there is some risk. There's risk of altitude sickness, which can really happen to anybody above about 8,000 feet, especially if they live at sea level. So if you were to go from Los Angeles to 10,000 feet in a couple of hours, you'd probably get a headache. You might get sick and start puking, but it wouldn't be life-threatening. If you were to go from LA to 20,000 feet, you're probably going to have some serious problems. And if you went from LA to the summit of Everest in a very short period of time, you would likely die within 3 to 5 minutes because of your lack of acclimatization. So, and then the kind of the secondary risk of going to base camp would be the dirty water and potentially foodborne illness as well. So,
yeah, and I would say a life straw is not going to help because it's going to freeze over real quick.
Yeah, but if you go in like trekking season, the weather is very nice. It's spring-like, it's sunny, it gets warm during the day. So a life straw could work if you had access to mountain streams. I actually used a little thing called a SteriPen, which uses ultraviolet light to sterilize the water. And I only bought, I think, 1 bottle of water while I was in Nepal and just used the SteriPen to kill all of the bacteria. And I didn't get sick from water or food, at least. So
that's good. No, that's very good.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So then, what's your goal for Peak Prosper? Like, how many? You mentioned thousands, but like everyone says, I want to help thousands. What's the specific goal you have for it?
Sure. So right now we have about 40 people. We have 40 people in our online course. Mm-hmm. So our next milestone is to get 50 members in our online course. Okay. If we look at some different, quantifiable targets for Peak Prosper, we do want to reach 1 million people within the next 2 years through our online courses, our free workshops, our free online courses, and the web content that we put out on our website that we've started to build out. And that metric will just purely be measured based on people that are visiting our website, visiting our platform, and using the resources that we're putting out, both free and paid resources. If we look at like our larger vision and mission and why we're even doing this, it's to help people find meaning in their lives and meaning in their careers and wake up each day excited to go make the world a better place and feel like what they are contributing to the world is what they're supposed to be doing, instead of just going to another paycheck job or working on some business that doesn't bring them that intrinsic sense of fulfillment, like what they're doing truly matters. I believe that every single human on this planet has within them a purpose and has within them the ability to align their profession with that purpose. And that's really why Peak Prosper exists. I was just talking to my partner yesterday. We have a client that that's been given an opportunity to do some work with Robert Kiyosaki. Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And he said, Scott, this is what inspires me and motivates me to do the work that we do, to see the opportunities that other people are getting in their lives as a result of applying the principles that we teach. So that's kind of a short vision for where we're heading with Peak Prosper. We have a lot of work to do. I think that we always will. But I'm so stoked for the challenge, the journey, and the adventure that lies ahead.
So you've touched this on a few times, and a lot of people have touched on it. I'm always curious their method of finding it. Find your purpose is essentially what I'm going for. So let's say I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. What would be some of the steps you'd start to help me out with that?
Sure. Great question. So we have a methodology that we use to help people find their purpose, define their purpose, and create something that we call a purpose sentence or statement, something that says, this is my purpose. My purpose is to use my leadership skills and my natural talent for system optimization to help people find meaningful work and build businesses that make the world a better place. That's fundamentally my professional purpose. Now, if we peel back the layers and start to look at how do we get to the point where I clearly know exactly what my purpose is? My purpose is to use let's just kind of like look at what this sentence is from a formula perspective, and then we'll unpack each of the elements. So my purpose is to use my natural skill 1, skill 2. What are your natural skills? 2, action verb. What actions am I going to take? Inspire, empower, teach, lead, build. People or a specific demographic. Who is it going to help? What is your cause? What is your bigger purpose? What is the thing that's beyond just you? See, humans are so self-centric, but when we become other-centric, then we tap into purpose. Purpose is beyond us. It's about something so much more than just me. And what I've found when we activate a cause or a thing or something that is beyond us, other people magnetically become attracted to that cause. They see a reason to be a part of it. So when we look at this formula here, we can call it the purpose formula or the purpose sentence formula. There's really 3 core elements here. And the first one is, what are my skills? Is a question I would ask. What are my natural skills that energize me? Not just the stuff that I know how to do, because I know how to do a lot of stuff. But what are the 2 to 3 things that I really enjoy doing? The things that energize me. And I would just start by making a list of all your skills, everything that you're good at. Just asking yourself that question, what are my skills? What are my skills? What are my skills? Over and over and over again until your pen runs dry and you can't come up with any more skills. And then I'd go start looking through that list and shrink it down to 15 to 20 skills that energize you or things that you think energize you. And then I would shrink that list down to 5 to 10. And then I would shrink it down until you have 1 to 3 natural skills that really energize you. So now we understand what the skills are. We can move next into the application of the skills. So if you look at the skills, whatever they might be, for me, something that I love doing is speaking. I love speaking, which translates into teaching. So teaching would be the action verb. Speaking is the skill. So how can I use the skill of speaking to apply it to help someone? Well, teaching would be an action verb. Again, we're moving to the next section of this formula. Mm-hmm. Skills, actions. What are some actions that I can take that help other people? They might be teaching. They might be building something. They might be writing something. They might be creating. They might be leading. What are the actions that you can take? I'd come up with 1 to 2 actions, again, that you see energizing you when you apply those skills. Are you following me here?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay. And then the last element is really the who you're helping, who you're helping with the application of the skill and how you're helping them. So this might be a specific demographic. It might be a cause. It might be a project. It might be building a via ferrata to make your community more attractive to tourism. It might be building a well in Africa so that you can bring clean water to a community of 1,000 people that don't have clean water. What is the application of the skill and the actions that you're taking to help a specific group of people? So, to just kind of summarize here, what we just did is unpacked what I call a purpose formula. And there's a variety of ways to reach your purpose. This is just one of them. My purpose is to use whatever your skills are. We kind of honed that down to 2 or 3 to action. What actions are you going to take to apply the skills to help a specific group of people or apply or create a certain cause? And then maybe an easier way for people that are more into meditation or spirituality to discover their purpose may be to just ask yourself, what is my life purpose? What am I here to do? And just sitting quietly, disconnected in meditation with that question and just seeing what comes up. It might just amaze you. So
I'm going to take a little more of a devil's advocate route. Let's say someone is completely unsure of their skills that actually are their flow state. How would you help them identify that? And then once they realize that, we can work, the rest is worked out.
Sure. So if somebody's completely unaware of what their skills are,
like their flow skill, like the skills that just get them in
their flow skills.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's what I would first do is take someone through a personality test. I typically recommend someone go through Clifton Strengths Finder. It costs about $50 online. It gives you a very in-depth report of your skills, your natural talents, your natural expertise based on how you answer, a variety of questions. There's also like Myers-Briggs tests that you can take, but I found that Clifton's Strengths Finder gives some amazing insight. From that report, it gives us at least a base layer starting point. For example, hey, Scott, you're great at building systems and technology stacks, is what Clifton's might say. Okay, well, that reminds me that I'm really good at seeing a process and seeing how it can be built into an ERP, which is Enterprise Resource Planning System, right. Or NetSuite, for example. And so that would be the place that I start. And then I would, again, go through this exercise of creating and building a list. It's rare that someone doesn't know what their skills are, especially if they are sat down and given an opportunity to have a conversation, a dialogue with someone else. When people are stuck in their head and they really feel lost, they may feel like they aren't good enough. They aren't good at anything. They don't know anything. But when we step back and look at their life and what they do on a day-to-day basis, personally and professionally, we can start to identify what it is that they are good at, what skills they're already using. If we just look at what you're doing, for example, with your show, you've developed a plethora of podcast skills. You've probably created some skills around website design and development. You probably have some writing skills. So from there, we can start to craft this list of base layer skills, and we can start to go a little bit more granular with each of them to start building out the list and identifying which of those are actually energizing and exciting and something that they could see themselves doing on a day-to-day basis.
I would say the way you summarize it at the end definitely is, I've had a few people ask me, I'm like, what did you do as a kid? Like when you were like 6 to 12 before like adulthood slapped you in the face and ruined all your innocence. What did you do that like literally spent so much time, like your parents even talked to it, you at like 20 plus years old, like you always used to do this kind of thing? Because I told them my thing, even though I'm super introverted, I love talking to people. It's the weirdest thing. And,
and I'm so glad that you shared that, because that's something I think about too. And I used to play with Legos all the time.
So you figured the system and all the pieces?
Yep. All the pieces and how it goes together. And I got really bored reading the instructions, but I loved like taking the Legos and building my own thing. And
yeah, for me, it was chatting with people. But the thing that recently, I had an interesting childhood. It's a little dark and depressing. We can skip over that. But essentially, sure. I would always see stories. And it was just one of those, I always was scared to say it because that situation, they essentially thought I was schizophrenic and crazy and going to hurt people. So for me to say anything about what I'm seeing, it's like, ooh, I'm going to get a very soft white jacket soon. But as I've been talking to people now recently and just telling them like, yeah, I'm writing stuff down to, kind of get the demons out of my head. They just always come back. So if I write it, they go away. And one of my buddies at work, he's 18 and he's like, dude, I don't usually read books, but can you tell me more about your story you're working on? I'm like, sure. It's funny. It's taken me almost 29 years to figure that out. That I should write stories too.
And we have a process at Peak Prosper that we take people through called reframing the past, and creating a list and writing in detail what negative experiences or painful experiences they still carry from their past, and reframing those to find the silver lining. What was the lesson within that thing that someone told you or conditioned you to believe, or thing that you experienced from your dark past that actually created a beautiful future for you? Because often if something bad hadn't happened, this good, bright future wouldn't have been created.
So I'll give a quick summary. Essentially, then in the 90s, they didn't have like the PC and Google where it is, like the politically correct and all that. So it was pretty much the principles. Like I was a ADHD kid, like 6. I barely even knew what my emotions were. I see a bird and I'm like, ooh, happy bird flying. And I look down because it was raining and there's a dried up dead worm. I'm like, oh, sad. There's a worm that died, kind of thing. And then ADHD. So I just kind of thing. I have to do something to keep busy. And so essentially the teacher's like, he's a nuisance and a problem, medicate him or he's out of here. So my parents, they didn't know. So they're like, okay, we'll medicate him. Whole like 15-year saga of going through different experimental meds and all that. But at a young age, it was essentially the meds they were giving me only confirmed their theory that I was bipolar and schizophrenic. So then they give me more, which would make it worse. It was a whole thing. But the highlight of it all, because people say high school is bad. I think junior high is worse, because people are starting to realize, oh, we can hurt people without ever laying a hand on them, and it actually lasts longer by fucking with their emotions.
Right.
So at my young age, I'm very strong, and my body grows quickly. So my teeth came in wrong. Like I had really pronounced canines, and the lowers were just really animalistic. So people are like, oh, you're a monster. You're a beast. You're going to bite everyone's throat out. So they laugh at me and call me a monster. And I heard it so long that I actually kind of started believing it. And essentially, I was 13. I tried to take my life because I'm like, well, I'm a monster. I might as well just like stop the beast before he gets out, kind of thing. I'm a tough son of a bitch to kill. So I didn't die. But that's where I always joke with my martial arts instructor, because 6 months later, I went to the LA County Fair. I was drinking my big gulp of soda and my like funnel cake. Clearly like diabetes inducing day, but it was fun. But he picked me up, and it was just one of those. I realized when he picked me up in martial arts, if he didn't, I was really contemplating doing it again, but making it permanent this time. So I always tell him like, thank you. You literally saved me.
That's so horrible, but it's also the story for so many people today. And I mean, I experienced bullying firsthand to some degree as well growing up. And you pointed out something there that affects every single human being. And that is, our mind is programmed or conditioned based on things that we see and observe and based on things that we hear. And if we hear things enough times, sometimes once is enough, we will believe it to be true, whether it is true or not. And if we believe something to be true, we have a tendency to act in alignment with that belief. So if you believe you are a monster, you are likely to act in alignment with that belief. If you believe you're a peacemaker and a spiritual warrior and a successful entrepreneur, you're likely to act in alignment with that belief. Which is why, again, like the beginning of what we do at Peak Prosper is helping people to recondition their mind, get out any old conditioning that really isn't serving them, humanity, or the cause that they want to turn into a reality. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Oh, it's all good. I just realized the time. Do you have anyone right after me?
No, I've got a couple more minutes. We can.
Cool. Yeah, that's just one of those for me. I've the silver lining is I've reconditioned all that. And I've gotten off all those meds. I've been like almost 3 years clean now.
Amazing.
And yeah. Well, apparently that could have been ended badly. Another one of those, the stars lined up just right for Josh. But yeah, it was just, now I like I said, I believe I'm a successful entrepreneur, podcaster, whatever else. I may not be getting money now, but man, am I going to get a lot in the future, kind of thing. It's going to get to the point I'm like, shoot, I need to like give this to someone else.
Yeah, so, people forget about the law of exponential returns and embracing an exponential mindset. So many people believe in a linear mindset. Everything's going to be up and to the right. As long as I record more episodes, do more things now, I'm going to get more money now, I'm going to get more listeners now. But what often happens with podcast or business or investments, I read that you've gotten into some investing, is that we experience exponential growth, which is growth over the long haul. So rather than everything being awesome and perfect up to the right now, we experience this kind of flat growth curve for a long period of time before it starts to really go up and grow.
Oh yeah. And like how, well, a good example, he doesn't listen to this, so I won't mention him by name, but one of my coworkers, he recently became like a janitor, and it was just one of those, I'm like, hey, cool. He had that weird thing. Like he liked cleaning all the detailed stuff I didn't like cleaning. So I'm like, you do your thing kind of thing. But recently his mindset, cause he talks to a lot of negative people, is this place is cursed, is terrible, nothing good happens, blah blah blah. And he's like, don't you agree? I'm like, nope, actually I consider this place of opportunity and abundance and ease for me. And he just like looked at me like I was speaking like some foreign language. I'm like, let me give you like a quick easy tip. Whatever you think about, even if it's an offhanded comment, like to describe it, congratulations, you fulfilled it. And he just like looked at me and he's like, I said, so you want to be rich and get more money? He's like, yeah. Why aren't you planning different ideas? Why aren't you buying up our soda that's on sale and go sell it on the corner for $2? Well, I can't do that. I'm like, see, you have a limiting belief. You're your own worst victim. Is this pretty much one of those, he got confused and he went to go complain to someone. They're like, oh, you're talking to Josh. Yeah. Whatever he recommends, just do it. Don't ask questions. Kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh, because one of my coworkers, supervisor, he's super negative. And it was just one of those, he knows when I'm on shift, I'm going to call him out. I'm like, nope, like you need to let that go. Just move on kind of thing. He's like, but it's my past. I'm like, yes, it's dead and gone. Just let it go. So, yeah, I don't want to hold you up too much. I got 3 going out questions for you.
Cool.
So, other than working, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these like COVID lockdown times?
Well, I live a pretty balanced life.
Okay.
I work, I don't know, 30, sometimes 40 plus hours a week. And I go on local adventures. I ski in the winter and the spring, 2 to 3 days a week. I will go snowmobile out to some of the local cabins that we have here and stay the night in those for a couple of nights. I'm soon to go mountain biking here now that all the snow is melted. So I go on daily and weekly adventures. I spend time with my wife. I read books and I do some writing. I don't have a ton of hobbies outside of adventure. I really live adventure, spend time with my wife and my family and friends, and work on Peak Prosper. So that's kind of a summary of what my life looks like.
That's a good life, though. I'm gonna say adventure. That there's a lot you can do with just in that. So let's say someone aspiring to be like you, successful entrepreneur, businessman, adventurer, married. What are some tips, tricks, or advice you give them to start down that path?
Josh, great question. And we've talked about a lot of them today, but I just want to kind of rehash the importance of them. And the first one is reprogramming your mind and really cleaning up anything from your past that's holding you back, breaking free from negative feedback loops and negative thoughts and negative emotions that are fueled by the stories from your past that continue to loop in your mind over and over again. Because it is impossible to really create a clear vision for what you most desire from your current operating state. Right. So once you've done that, then take the time to clearly define exactly what you want. What I mean by that is not that you just want a bicycle, but what color is that bicycle? How many gears does it have? What kind of suspension does it have? How much does it cost? What brand, make, model is it? And really getting clear on exactly what you want. What do you want in a relationship? How do you want it to make you feel? What do you want it to look like on the inside and the outside? How do you want to communicate with each other? How do you want to invest your time together? What is your relationship with money? Do you want kids? Where do you want to live? What types of adventures do you want to go on? Do you want to go travel the world and go to Thailand together? What do you want that relationship to look like exactly? And if you want to create a business or you want to shift into a more meaningful career, what does that look like for you? Where are you working? What are you working on? Who are you working with? What types of projects are you doing? What is the greater cause beyond just the paycheck or the booming business or becoming a millionaire, whatever it might be? Getting clear on exactly what you want has this ability to activate the law of attraction and magnetically bring opportunities and resources and people and things and clarity around the actions that you need to take to you, rather than you sitting there staying stuck trying to think about, what do I do? What is the idea? Where am I going? Why am I here? And then my last recommendation is to create a plan. So many people operate with no plan. They don't have their goals written down. They think about their goals. They daydream about their goals, but they don't take the time to write their goals down that align with their vision. And the key thing here is alignment. So if a goal doesn't align with your vision, it's not your goal. And then breaking that goal down into the baby steps that get you to Everest or get you to the new bicycle that you want to buy or get you to creating or attracting the dream relationship or buying your own home or whatever it might be. What are the little steps, all the way down to the things that you can do in the next 24 hours? Because the goal can feel so daunting. It can feel so scary to go take on almost $250,000 project to build a Via Ferrata. But if you break that down into the things that you can do just today, that momentum will build into tomorrow and next week and next month and next quarter. And before you know it, you've built this whole Via Ferrata. You've hiked to Everest Basecamp. You've built a business that aligns with your skills and your strengths and things that you enjoy doing each day. So that's it. Really reprogram your mind. We call it the natural operating state. Create a vision, massively transformative vision, and create a plan or a path to your prosperous future.
That's awesome. So the final question is, where can everyone contact you at? But we've been saying Peak Prosper this whole time. Any social medias for you?
Sure, sure. The best place to learn more about what we do is peakprosper.com. We're at Peak Prosper on Instagram and Facebook, but our website is the best place for you to learn more about what we do and check out some of the resources we have. We've got a free online mini course to help you discover your strengths, your skills, your passions, and create a vision and a plan for your future. It's totally free. And we also have a podcast and a whole bunch of other resources and worksheets. If you just go to peakprosper.com and click on the resources page of our website.
Wonderful. And so the podcast, I presume, is Peak Prosper also?
It's the Find Meaningful Work podcast by Peak Prosper.
There we go. Find Meaningful Work. Wonderful. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure with you to talk to you, Scott. I don't want to overuse my time with you.
Awesome, Josh. Stoked we connected today, man.
Yes.
Keep in touch, and I look forward to listening to our show, man.
Me too.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.